All right. Today we're joined by Mr. Michael Dutro, aka the Force Plate Guy. Did I get that all right?
You got that all right. I just wish I wasn't AKA the force plate guy because I get painted into so many corners that way. But as good as it's been for my career being the force plate guy, it definitely there's more to golf, right? And I really appreciate you having me on. I love talking about golf. I love sharing either my story or what I try to do for people. And I appreciate people like you who are trying to get this content and this information out. So thanks again for having me on, man. I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thanks for giving us your time. And yeah, I look forward to it. So let's start with the generic. Give me some background. Give me your trajectory to where you are now and how you got.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a fun journey, man. It really has. A lot of sacrifices have had to be made in the name of development, but all in all, I can definitely say I can look back on it and I'm very proud of what I've been able to accomplish. And I'm not a very different story than most. I was a young man that started playing golf because of my dad, which turned me on to golf as a player. I pushed that as far as I could, played a lot of mini tours and, played some college golf and the whole thing. But as a player, I just really never got what I wanted out of the game from a performance standpoint. And I never, kind of took those big leaps and bounds after puberty. I won a ton of golf tournaments pre-puberty, and then I grew, and then my draw turned into a snap. And we know that story all too well. And, part of it is I didn't make the adjustment, but maybe another part of it was the people that I was trusting to help me develop didn't make the adjustment either. But one way or another, I just really had this chip on my shoulder that I felt that golf instruction could be more. And as a young man, I grew up in Kentucky, and not to say anything bad about Kentucky, but there's no like golf technology in Kentucky at that time. I didn't see my golf swing. This is a true story. People will not believe this. I'm only 40 years old. I'm not that old. I did not see my golf swing on video until I was a freshman in college. That's a true story. So there was no tech. There were not a lot of academies going on. And I really didn't even know this whole world of like being a professional coach existed, to be perfectly honest. So I knew I wanted to be in golf because I sure as heck didn't want to be an accountant. And I definitely wasn't smart enough to really do anything like that was going to make me enough money to justify walking away from golf. So I went to the University of Louisville originally. Unfortunately, my father passed away. I moved back to Richmond, Kentucky, graduated from Eastern Kentucky University, but things work in mysterious ways. And I was part of the inaugural class of the professional golf management program at Eastern Kentucky University, the very first one. So they really didn't give us any options. You were going to be a shirt folder, and that's what you could do, and that's what you could be. And I got into that industry on the green grass side and became a GM at about 26 years of age and was working 100 hours a week and making literally $23,000 a year. It just, the math didn't math. So one thing led to another. And after about 5 or 6 years of that experience, I decided it was time to go, and I got out of golf briefly. But I was only out of golf for about 2 weeks before, I missed it. And,
That's pretty.
you know,
I would say that's briefly.
yeah, it's pretty brief, right? So, but I didn't want to get back into the green grass side. Like that was a no-go for me. Like I knew that that wasn't satisfying me. That wasn't like bringing me joy. I was just a servant to the members, and I was very aware of that. So my wife, God bless her, a wonderful woman. I have the best wife on the planet. She's amazing, but she's also a therapist, and she's very good at asking questions. So one day, I'd come home from my day job that was in corporate America. And I was really like, babe, I got to do something with golf. Like I miss it. And not only that, but I was getting home at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This has never happened before. I've got all this time now. So she's like, well, babe, like, what do you actually like about golf? Like, what did you like about your job? And we went through everything. I hated the HOA. I hated the community center. I hated the banquet facility. Like, I didn't like any of that. So that was all running a business. But what I really loved, but I didn't do much, was I loved to teach. And I really enjoyed that. So she literally said this to me, and I swear to you, I never thought of this before, Ralph. But she goes, babe, why don't you just go teach golf on the side somewhere? And I was like, oh, what a great idea. And I did that. And, I had to learn how to get clients and I had to learn how to like deal with the clients when they got there. And I'm a PGA member, but honestly, as a class A member, Ralph, I couldn't tell you if the club face was open or closed at the top of the swing to save my life. Because and full transparency, when we did our PGA book work, we faked all of the coaching and teaching and club fitting and repair. We literally took pictures and put it in our work experience and pretended like we had done that. And I just was ill prepared. But you don't know what you don't know sometimes. And people were taking lessons from me and they were getting better, right? They were able to hit the ball a little better. They were able to do this. But the thing that ate at me was the fact that some clients I would have tremendous success with. And then other clients I couldn't help to save my life. And that really ate at me and kind of really started taking away my ability to sleep at night. So about a year goes on into this little journey and I'm starting to kind of figure something out, I think. And I get this phone call from a gentleman by the name of Dave Kendall. Dave owned a academy in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He just recently passed away, unfortunately, but Dave was this beautiful guy that ran this academy and he invited me up to check it out. And I'd never seen one. I'd never seen one of these before. And I just fell in love and was addicted, like badly. So over the next, couple years, I was teaching there part time and kind of learning a little bit. But I was around all these golf Hall of Fame kind of guys that really like had big reputations. And it became apparent to me that I was ill prepared to coach at this facility. And I got super lucky. And there was one coach there that was roughly, he's about 5 to 10 years older than me. And his name was Scott Hayes. And Scott is a legitimate golfing machine master certified instructor. He's been out with Joe, he's been out with Lynn, he's been out with everybody. And all I really wanted, Ralph, was answers. And he gave me the thing that every person thinks they want, which is a book of answers. And it's the golfing machine, right? Corn husk yellow. And I set about getting into that and learning it. And Scott really was generous enough to really kind of mentor me for the first time in my career. And it was amazing. And I spent a couple years with Scott learning the ins and outs of the golfing machine. And then maybe the greatest thing or the worst thing, depending on how you look at it, happened. And I bought a Trackman.
Wow.
So I decided that I needed some data. I decided that my eyes weren't very good. And I am not a classical golf coach in terms of having all the swing laid out or having all these different swings and memorizing swing. That never really made sense to me. It really didn't. Like I naturally, go ahead. I naturally didn't
Let
see
me
that.
let me interject there a second. So, just to summarize a little bit of this, you were in the inaugural class at Eastern Kentucky, so this is the inaugural class. You're basically a beta. You're a
Yep.
placebo. You graduate there, and now we're gonna go. You know, you were the beta model. Now we're gonna do the 2.1 variant. It's okay.
Right.
We missed a few things here. Okay,
Yeah.
because I think Campbell or a lot of the kids that went to Campbell, I'm very close friends with them, and David Orr there, they would walk out of there like GSEB in the golfing machine. So they were Morad,
But the
all that.
sad thing is too, is there are it's like anything, right? There's good doctors, there's bad doctors, there's good
Anyway,
accountants, there's bad accountants. And I'm not saying that Eastern Kentucky was bad by any means. It was we were the first class. They really didn't have the support of the university and they were just trying to help us like get a job because that's what her job was. Her name was Kim Kinzer. She was a wonderful woman. She really loved each and every one of us. There weren't that many of us. I think there were maybe 13 of us in the original class. I've talked to so many people that have went through the PGM program and I've heard this same story. Yeah, we faked it too. Yeah, we faked it too. Yeah, we faked it
the
too.
story is.
Yeah,
You got
so
the
it's
Kentucky thing then.
it's not
Mm.
just us. So
Yeah, so yeah, and then you get into, with Scott Hayes and to the golfing machine, but you immediately and the reason I've been talking to a lot of different individuals, so this blog goes back to '09, '10, somewhere around there, okay, and at that point in time, there was this big disruption in the golf industry, and
right,
Trackman was a big part of that, among other
for
things,
sure. Yeah,
and the World Wide Web gave everybody a platform from which to speak, which was unlike and I'm gonna go back to this damn thing where you'd go to the rag, whatever golf rag you were reading, and I had these
Yeah.
clip outs of all these tips and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And, 200 pages of that is like 10 years, so like 20 years maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. So you just stepped into an era that everything was changing, and you were fortunate.
Honestly, yeah, I think so. And the really amazing thing was, going back to Dave Kendall, I didn't understand it at the time. I wish I could go and say this to Dave now. But Dave just gave us all the coaches. He didn't really care what we taught, but what he cared about was that we cared. That we showed up and we cared and we did our best. And there's a lot of freedom in that. So I had purchased this Trackman. I'm loading Power Accumulator 2 all day long with everybody, and we're doing all these like staples of the golfing machine. And I'm just not seeing the data with regards to club path and dynamic lie and things like that really working out in a favorable way for the players I'm working with. And that really was a big moment for me
Mm,
because this is the first time I've ever questioned anything.
right.
And I really believed full-heartedly in the golfing machine. Dude, I was drinking the Kool-Aid as best I could, and I really did believe in it. But when I became less subjective and became more objective, right? And started like actually looking at, hey, the person started here based off the data and the ball flight, and then they finished here. What did I do? What did I not do? When I started kind of trying to figure out this cause and effect and the effectiveness of what I was trying to tell people to do, I really found huge discrepancies. And I really was, I didn't have hair then either, but if I had, I would have pulled it out. So, I really was just kind of lost for a little bit. And, you know, so just so you know, I am autistic to a certain point and I have some of that in me. And when my brain triggers, nothing will satisfy it except answers. So the first thing I did was I thought Trackman was wrong. This is how much I believed in the golfing machine. I was convinced Trackman was wrong. And instead of just like sending an email like a normal person, I hopped on a flight to Denmark and went over to Denmark to talk to the boys in the white coats. And this is a true story. I literally knocked and I didn't knock, I
Did
beat on the door.
you went to see Frederick Tuxton?
Frederick actually wasn't there, but I met with Klaus, Sebastian, and about 4 other of the high ends at Trackman, and this is at their original campus. This is before they moved to their nice new place. But I beat on the door, demanded to have a meeting, went up, not upstairs. There was no upstairs at the time, but went into the conference room they were using at the time. And about 20 minutes later, Klaus and Sebastian are like, you know what? We got to send this guy downstairs to the white coats because like nothing else is going to help this guy. So I really got deep into Trackman, and I'm very proud to say I'm a Trackman master. There's not that many of us. They kind of are demanding and certifying you as a master, but I really got into Trackman, and the more I got into Trackman, the more infallible that information became, and the more questions I had about the golfing machine. But I'm kind of caught in a crossroads here, and luckily, my Trackman rep at the time, his name was Alex Yazel, and Alex came one day to ask me some stuff about track. I think he was showing me Trackman putting when it first came out. As a matter of fact, this is about 2019, 2018. And, Alex is like, "Hey."
Typing on my iPad here because I'm gonna follow up.
Oh, no worries.
Some
So,
guys think like I'm ignoring them. No, no.
Alex asked me, he goes, "Have you ever heard of force plates?" And I said, "Force what?" And he's like, "Force plates." And no. So he's like, "I think you should check this out. You're the kind of guy that might like this." So I literally the very next day ordered the first set that I have, or the first that I had of force plates, which was the Smart to Move 1D plates, the dual 1D plates.
Okay.
And I get them. I'm excited. I think this is going to answer all the riddles. And I turn them on, which I had to figure out how to do, by the way, because I didn't even know how to do that originally. And I turn them on and I start measuring everybody. And it might as well have been written in Chinese because it made zero sense to me. I didn't get it. I didn't even come close to getting it. I did so many phone calls. And by the way, this is kind of the cool thing. At the time, Smart to Move was just Gregory and JP. There was no Salesforce, there was no nothing. And by
These are
the way,
the guys in Connecticut, correct?
No, these are the guys over in France.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So Smart to Move is a French company. Yep.
Okay.
So their accent at the time was actually quite a bit thicker than it is now. So there was a lot of phone conversations. There was a lot of me yelling at them yelling at me, like us trying to like figure out what's going on. And eventually Gregory, who owns Smart to Move, was nice enough to go, "Hey, I think what you really need to do is you need to meet Mike Adams. That's what you need to do because Mike knows force plates. And that's really the biggest thing. If I am going to give one particular person credit for kind of making me me, I would say Mike was the genesis of me becoming me because Mike was the first golf coach that I had ever been around who talked about the body first. It's the body moving the club, not the club moving the body. So when Mike started talking about the body, and then I started understanding a little bit of the movement patterns that we were seeing at the time with the force plates, it just really was a wonderful thing for me because it opened me up to a whole new world. And for the first time, I started looking for answers about golf outside of golf. And I have a very simplistic swing philosophy. As a coach, you're always asked, what's your swing philosophy? Mine is 9 words, pretty efficient with it. A human being making a motion on planet Earth. And that statement covers the whole thing. And not only that, but that whole statement has laws and peer reviewed research and science that covers that entire statement. So I started hanging out with PhDs and MDs and flying all over the place. And, I don't think there's a well known biomechanist in this country that I haven't spent time with. I've been with Quan, I've been with Sasha, I've been with all these guys and spent time with them. And the amazing thing is that I kind of had to go through all of these different rabbit holes and learn all the bones and learn the muscles and the myofascial system and learn all these things. It's kind of like Alice in Wonderland in a lot of ways. I kind of was able to go all the way into these rabbit holes and I've kind of come back out the other
Yeah,
side
there we go.
and I'm generally the person, like I said, I hate being the force plate guy because honestly, I think we need the tech to gain an understanding of what's happening. But when it comes to like playing golf, we don't have access to this technology when we actually play the game. And that's where I think we're really selling golf short right now is that, yes, we should have a very good understanding of how the human body can and does move. We should have a very good understanding of what, proper club delivery is. We should be able to understand ball flight and all these things. But at the end of the day, you can't just show people graphs and numbers and expect them to play better golf. And we as instructors have to be these conduits of information for our clients. And we have to be able to take very complicated things like the human body is not the most simple of things to figure out, but we have to be able to relate that in a simplistic kind of way to our clients and then get it to make the golf swing work better. And that's what was really the fun part for me was, and still is to this day, is the constant learning, the constant evolution, it's so funny anymore. I teach a lot of golf lessons still to this day. And the funny thing is, man, is people come in, they're like, I just had a golf lesson. I think I hit like, maybe 10 balls at the beginning. And then like we didn't hit another golf ball the rest of the time together because so much of my golf lessons that I'm working on with people are taking place down in our gym and we're working on movement stuff and we're working on getting people to actually get a feel and get an accurate feel, right? Because the general kind of person that's playing golf, they're never going to walk into a better movement pattern. Like that's not going to come out of the dirt. Like they might hit the ball better. They might dig that out of the dirt and figure out a better delivery for the way they move. But getting people to change requires a change in motor learning. And the motor learning is never going to happen with a golf club in your hands when you're worried about what the golf ball does. And you're never going to find a golfer who doesn't care what the golf ball does when they hit it. So if we want to actually make a fundamental change to how we move and how we operate, you're going to have to take, let's call it a step back away from the range and maybe go and get on a cable row machine and learn how to move low point across your body without just leaning the handle in there. So I think it's really been a fun journey. We could talk about this for weeks because I've been everywhere. I've been very privileged to go all over the world with golf. Truly think golf is an amazing thing. It really is. And it does amazing things for people. And as much joy as it brings us, there's also a lot of people where it brings a lot of heartache. And I
Yeah.
love kind of being here for that guy that feels hopeless, because so many people that I work with, they take a traditional golf lesson and, maybe, they haven't done a whole lot of athletic things in their life. Maybe they're out of shape. Maybe they are, significantly older than they used to be. A lot of these things. And when they go and get a quote unquote traditional golf lesson where the coach generally only addresses the positions the golf club is in, they can't find a better way, because the movement that their body creates is so poor relative to what we need to create speed and precision. So by being able to take the golf club away from them and show them a better, easier way that their body actually is supposed to move, that's really the gold for me. And I really appreciate getting to share that experience with so many people.
I think that, that's been a common misconception over the years that golf is not a sport, right? It's a game or something. So you did have a lot of people back in the days that would show up and see pictures of like executives and overweight executives, and it's about business and all this stuff. But it's a sport if you want to take it to its highest levels. Now you go from Trackman to force plates to, and how much has it changed, or what new developments? Because this is dynamic, right? And as technology evolves, our understanding is going to evolve, right? So in my case, I deal with a lot of technology. Most of the technology we're using now is military technology that was classified and later unclassified, Doppler
Sure.
radar,
Sure.
PS. Now they're using LiDAR. So, it's starting to get, and as soon as the public gets access to this stuff, then you have smart people that use it to create these things that can make everybody's job easier. Exactly. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
at some point, this is going to evolve and get even deeper. You
for
understand?
sure.
And I'm wondering,
The problem is I think it's going too deep though. If you think about, you know, the medical community and you think about kind of how that's evolved, when you think about all of our what we know knowledge base wise out there, a lot of it is based off of math and engineering, because a lot of the theories about and the understanding of the human body and physics and and kinesiology and all these things, they were kind of evolving the same rough time frame as we were going through our industrial revolution. And the issue that I have with a lot of the way technology is used is it's used in a very reductive manner. And it's used in a way to try to say, well, this does this. And they treat it very much as a cause and effect relationship. But if you're teaching golf as a cause and effect relationship, which in a lot of ways it is, the problem is you're only comparing 2 points. And this whole system, right? The whole body has to be involved within the motion that is the golf swing. But not only do we have this biological element, the human being that's involved, but then we have a relationship between the human being and the ground. We have these ground forces that we have to account for. Okay. So now there's another layer on top of that. And then we have a golf club in our hands, right? And that's going to create physics, and that's going to create a whole other set of layers that we have to kind of pile onto this. And then we have the environment that we always seem to forget about, right? That still exists. We still play golf outside. So there's a lot of different levels to how you want to look at this. And where I think a lot of times we go wrong is that we look at this massive amounts of data, depending on what all you're looking at in a coaching experience. And we try to go, okay, well, this is the thing. And it's like, well, maybe, right? It might be. But at the same time, we also need to try to understand that this is all one big system and not just 2 points that we have to deal with. So, yes, there's cause and effect relationships within the golf swing. Absolutely. I'm not going to argue that there isn't. But at the same time, there's more to the story than a simple cause and effect relationship, because you can hit a great golf shot. You can make a hole in one and have the worst ground forces in the world. You can make a hole in one and like hit a 6 iron from 100 yards, like Mrs. Haverkamp does it every week. Like you,
I was just at an outing. The group in front of us, it was it was a fundraiser for a black fraternity, and I play it in every year. The guys in front of us were terrible. I mean, I don't know if they ever grabbed a golf club. And I'm on a green of one hole. We're going up to the next hole is a par three. The guy like blades the ball, hits the cart path, and starts running, scooting, jumps over the curb, runs up onto the green, and goes into the hole. He wins a car.
There's nothing that says that you have to hit that golf club as far as you can every time. But going back to the conversation that you kind of started there, golf is very
Mhm.
much a sport now. And there's a real reason behind that. So if you go back a little farther than I do, I think, and which is a good thing. But if you think back to, the 80s and the 90s and you think about the PGA Tour, there was like this phenomenon that happened that doesn't really happen that much now. And the phenomenon was that the players were always hitting it out of each other's divots. They were always hitting it out of each. There wasn't a tournament in the 80s or 90s where a player wasn't going to have to hit at least one ball out of a divot. You don't see it that often now. But that really made me think, why is it that we used to hit out of each other's divots and now we don't do that as much? And the reason is pretty simple. I actually went and interviewed so many different people that were involved back in that time frame, but they were involved with Spalding, they were involved with Dunlop, they were involved with Top Flight, they were involved with all the brands of yesteryear that used to make wound golf balls or Balata golf balls, right? And my question to them was all the same question. What was the theoretical limit for a wound and or Balata golf ball? How hard could you hit one of those things and predict what it would do in terms of flight? And the answer that I've been given routinely by most of these gentlemen is somewhere between 163, 168 miles an hour. That was back in the day the theoretical limit for that golf ball. That's what it could handle and still predict ball flight. So the funny thing is that you have guys like Corey Pavin, right? Not a big hitter. And then you have guys like Johnny Miller, who by all accounts was strong as a mule. The problem is that Johnny couldn't use his strength to his advantage to beat Corey because the golf ball couldn't take the extra speed. So the field was really leveled for a long time because of the golf ball and the way the golf ball behaved. So now we have this urethane golf ball, which I'm not a huge fan of, but we have this urethane golf ball that just doesn't want to spin at all.
Mhm.
But it's also manufactured more consistently with better practices and better technologies. And now the theoretical limit is somewhere between like 223 and 230.
Wow.
Okay, so now all of a sudden we go back to the same example between Corey Pavin and our buddy Johnny Miller. Now all of a sudden, Johnny Miller's got a huge advantage because Johnny Miller can mash a golf ball a heck of a lot harder than Corey Pavin can. And I know people don't like to hear this, but there is an advantage with club speed. There really is. If you
No,
don't think that's
obviously,
true,
it's becoming
I can't
obvious
help you.
now. Becoming more and
Now,
more obvious, and again, with the advent of Tiger Woods coming out, he's coming. I mean, 96, the 96 season. Guy says to me, I said, no, he's going to win at Vegas because that's a long hitter's golf course. That's
yeah,
when Davis Love dominates it because he's a pro. So there's a drive
Tiger
four.
Tiger's a curious case though in that time frame because Tiger was right there at the change of the ball, right?
Yeah.
He was right there at it.
Yes.
And the ball change absolutely killed Greg Norman. Absolutely killed him. Greg Norman went from the best driver of the golf ball in the world as he was to not a very good driver of the ball at all. And it wasn't because his swing changed, it was because literally the ball changed and it killed a lot of careers, the ball
Yeah.
changing.
Okay.
And they just couldn't adjust fast enough. But the thing that I don't think Tiger gets any credit for is if you go back early Tiger 97 and you look at his stats driving, a lot of people will claim that Tiger was a horrendous driver of the golf ball. I disagree. We didn't have like Trackman comes out in 1999, 2000. So we don't necessarily have all of the data from back in that period of time with Tiger. But one thing that has been kind of widely considered is that in that 1997, 1998 time frame, Tiger was right around 180 ball speed. Now think about that for a minute. Nobody was anywhere close to 180 ball speed back
With a
then.
Titleist Professional, which is in essence an iteration, the last iteration of the Balata ball. Yeah,
Correct. So
absolutely.
I don't think that Tiger was a bad driver of the ball. I think that Tiger was actually a phenomenal driver of the ball. And then when you dig deeper into the stats and you look past the percentage of fairways hit, you start realizing that, yeah, he didn't hit a ton of fairways because the ball was spinning so much at that speed. But he did have a lot of open looks at the green. And that's actually the stat we look at on tour now. It's not about percentage of fair. Nobody cares about that number. Like it's a simple number to understand and kind of look at, but we're more interested in good drives is what we call it, which simply means that you hit your tee shot, you hit it solid, you're putting up like a 147, 148 smash at minimum, and you have a free open look. I don't care if it's in the rough, but you have a clear open look at the green. So I think Tiger actually is interesting because if you watch Tiger now, and I'm talking about now, if you watch Tiger now, he's never hit the golf ball off the tee straighter, ever. Like, I mean, since they put the rod in his leg, which is kind of what his right leg is now, is basically a rod. Since they put he's never driven the ball better. And the reason I believe is not so much because of the injuries. I think it's because the technology has finally caught up to Tiger. And that's where I think that the game has really evolved is there's been a massive change in the way we play the game, not because the courses are changing, but because the ball is completely changed. The equipment is completely changed. And now everybody has a big watermelon on a stick and they're easy to hit. And if they're easy to hit, well, then by God, you can swing harder. But going back to our conversation about sport, if we kind of take this whole conversation we just had and we think about it, okay, there was no advantage to swinging harder pre 2000. So you could be savvy and you could have style and you could be all over the place. And like it didn't really matter because you didn't have to hit the ball that hard. But now these guys are showing up and they are tattooing the golf ball every single time they hit it, whether it's with a wedge, an iron, a driver, it doesn't, they just tattoo the thing.
Right.
So the weird thing is that a lot of the golf instruction hasn't really evolved with the equipment. And a lot of people are still like holding up their Ben Hogan's 5 lessons. And Mr. Hogan, God bless him, that book is great. I'm not saying it's a bad book, but it is a old model for a completely different situation than we currently find ourselves in. Because with the current game, if you are going to accelerate the golf club enough to create ball speed high enough to compete at whatever level you're trying to compete, you are going to have to learn how to break and slow down the golf club efficiently and safely. And if you watch a golf tournament this week, I promise you there's at least one person in every group that has a taped up lead wrist. And the reason is because they're not efficiently breaking the golf club and they're having to use their arm to create the break that takes the bend out of the shaft versus the more prescribed model that we're now seeing, which is we want to use the left leg. Or the lead leg, I should say, excuse me. So we are seeing that, in my opinion, that a lot of people are hanging on to these traditional swing models, but they have to evolve because the game has evolved and now it is more of a sport. And you can't really argue that. We went from, let's call it 170 to 230. That's a 60 mile an hour ball speed difference. And you're going to have to figure out, the thing that a lot of people don't understand about the golf swing, and the reason that I absolutely can't stand speed training, I think it's maybe the worst thing we've been doing to golfers. But the reason that I say that is because most people, and I do mean most, like 98% of people I've ever measured, they have a V8 engine and they can swing it with the V8. The problem is that they can't slow it down.
Mm.
And the body will never allow you to accelerate something that you can't slow down. Your body won't let you injure yourself. It's trying not to let you injure yourself. So at the end of the day, where most people go wrong is that they have this V8, but when they go out and try to drag race, it looks like a four banger, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not getting the speed they create to the ball. And the reason that's happening is because, as we know, the ground forces tend to be way late. And the ground forces are what we use to create leverage in the golf swing. So if the leverage is there, we can break the club safely and efficiently. And I literally have, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, boys and girls, that can put up, 150, 160 ball speed. I do. And it's like that used to be considered world class, but now I've got prepubescent kids doing it. So we've got to understand that the game, as much as we love it, as much as we want to preserve it, as much as we want to keep it the way it's always been, the cat's out of the bag and the athletes are here now. And you can't, like I was just at the Ryder Cup, you can't look at the range anymore and not see athletes. I mean, that's all that there is anymore. And it's just a completely different game.
And even the viewership. I mean, now you turn on the TV and you're looking at athletes. You're not looking at, so you had the '70s, you had guy partying all night and coming in all disheveled and teeing it up and doing what they had to do. You don't see that
Craig
anymore.
Stadler, right? Like, I mean, I love Craig, great guy.
Ray Floyd, guys like that, they were like, they were party animals.
Yeah,
But,
right. And it was a lifestyle.
it was a lifestyle. It was a lifestyle
Yeah.
associated with that,
Yeah. I
that
mean, that's what I call it. People ask me, what I do for a living. I'm like, oh, well, I'm in the circus. It's just,
basically it, basically it. Yeah.
and that's
No,
what it
that's
is. We town to town.
yeah, and you talked about Mike Adams. I've never met Mike, but I spent, I deal a lot with EA Tischler,
Yeah.
and Tischler's into that.
EA was there when I started. Yeah, that was kind of the end of EA and Mike, and then Terry kind of stepped into EA's role a little bit there. That's kind
Okay.
of what was happening. Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't I just know that EA he's helping, been with we've been buddies.
brilliant, brilliant guy. EA, like sharp as a tack, really, really smart. I think EA is great. I think everybody. The thing that I always appreciate is I'm not doing as much of it as I want to now, just because I have other responsibilities. But there for a while, man, there wasn't an education thing that I wasn't going to.
You got
I went to a lot of them, and, anybody that has the let's call it, has the stones, right, to stand up and say what they believe and to try to back it up, I'm always gonna listen to that person because they have some kind of truth. They wouldn't be saying that if they hadn't seen it work before, and I don't think any one of us, including myself, has all the answers. I don't. I think the only thing the golf industry has actually proven thus far is that none of us actually know what the heck's going on. So, with that all being said, I was at the open forum this past year down at the PGA show. I was part of the headlining panel, and a gentleman. I'm not. I don't want this to sound like a hit piece because it isn't. But a gentleman got up right before us, and he ended up joining us on stage. But he basically got up there and said, "Force plates are crap. I don't believe in it. It's stupid. Doesn't make any sense. It's junk." And everybody thought that I was going to lose my mind with this guy. And you know what I did actually? He got done with his presentation right before ours, and everybody's jaws kind of on the floor because they can't believe this guy did this. And I walked up to him and I said, "Good for you. Good for you." Like that takes a lot of stones to get up in front of a group of this size and this magnitude and say something that you're going to get ridiculed for. And the only reason he's saying that is because, once again, he has seen success doing it a different way. But my argument is this, and it's not really an argument, it's a fact. You cannot have kinematics without the kinetics. You can't. They both are tied together. One is creating the other, or the other is creating the other. That's how it works.
yeah,
So
direct
if you're a
correlation.
3D motion capture kind of guy and you like gears or you like Koalas's or you like the Enzo, whatever you use, guess what? When you change the kinematics, I promise you the kinetics change as well. So the cool thing about golf and the thing that we're losing in this argument between which is better, 3D mocap or 3D force plates, the thing that we're losing is you can do whichever way you want to do, but you are going to affect both things when you change one or the other. And that's where I think the industry is really just losing its mind right now is everybody's trying to say their thing's the best. They're trying to do that because they have large amounts of money invested in this equipment. I mean, I've got a $500,000 facility here that I personally have written a check for. There is nobody else. Like I have paid for everything. I didn't get any discounts. They didn't give me anything for free. All
No
my
P
Trackmans I
no PUD,
purchased.
you don't get a PUD on it.
No PUD, like nothing, man. So at the end of the day, it's, as a coach, I think that we are allowed to evolve and grow and change, and I think we need to. And if you're not doing that, then I really wonder about why you're in coaching in the first place. So I think letting people be allowed to coach the way they feel like they're the best coach is always going to be best case. And granted, I think you should use some kind of technology just so you can keep yourself honest, right? But at the same time, like, I don't think technology is the only way to help people play better golf.
Okay, so going back to that to the open forum, so I remember when I guess back then Manzella and some other guys were trying to get that together, and
Yeah.
I don't know if I was good. They wanted me my involvement or something like that. But I was on my way out of this, just blogging stuff. I got too busy. I think Nick Chertok or some of
Yep.
Nick is a good kid.
Yep. He's a great kid. I love Nick.
It was
I
supposed.
can't call him a kid. You can. I can't.
He's it's supposed to do what it's supposed to do, and it's all right when somebody has the courage to stand by their convictions.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with any of that.
I
But
don't either.
but scientific method, right? If we're proven wrong, you need to have the same courage to fall on your sword.
You'll really appreciate this,
A
Ralph.
square
You
to
really will
square.
appreciate this.
In the 70s, there was a square to square thing. Right? They call Altman and Flick and Golf Digest got behind it, and it effed up everybody. But to their credit, at the end of the day, they all apologized for saying this thing. You're right. This thing's garbage. Right?
Yeah.
You guys who were promoting it came up and said, "Hey, you don't see that. You don't see that. You don't often see that." Very good.
So, as the resident force plate guy, if you will, I've spent the past 3 years traveling all over the world, literally doing force plate education. And the big thing for me is that I'm always teaching application, right? Like, if you want to learn the theory, I'll give you the books and you can have your own interpretation that I've read, right? And if you have the same interpretation as me, wonderful. If not, that's even better. Like, let's talk about it and figure out, which way it goes. But I'm happy to give people the context and the sources of my information so that they can do their own investigating. But the big thing that I always start every education with, and I've done over probably 80 of these things. The thing I always say to start, and I mean it sincerely, and I think people recognize this immediately, is that, and this is what I say: if you are here today, hey, good for you. And if you are sitting there and you feel like you know something I don't, if you feel like you know something better than I do, if you feel like you have a better way, I would love, 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 love for you to tell me right now because I want to hear it. I am not going to attack. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I just would love to hear it. And the thing is that this is how we get better. I have been incredibly lucky. Now, in fairness to myself, I have paid most of the coaches that I have went and worked with, and I have paid dearly to work with a lot of coaches who honestly didn't provide much at all. But there have been a lot of golf coaches who have been very wonderful and shared information with me and have corrected me when I'm wrong. But I tell these people, I want to know if you know something I don't, because even though I'm the one standing up here presenting, we're all in this thing together and we should all be trying to get better together. And even if you don't want to tell me right now, you can wait to the end and pull me aside, and that's wonderful too. But like, let's figure this out because there's, to your point, so many smart people. We're not just golf pros anymore. There's PhDs, there's MDs, there's statisticians, there's all these amazing people involved in golf now. And the fact that we're still like debating things that medical science just says are completely fabricated is mind boggling to me. Like, what are we trying to hang on to? If we are a fiduciary, right? Like, I hate grow the game. Like, first off, they're not growing the game. Secondly, they are leeches that make money from the game of golf. Thirdly, we should be calling ourselves fiduciaries because we should be doing what's right for our client, whether that fits our model and fits what we think is right or not. It doesn't matter. We have to service that client to the best of our abilities and give them a way. We can't just go, well, hey, my way doesn't work for you, so you suck. It's your fault. Like, that's not acceptable. And there's still a lot of that in the industry. And that's the thing that eats me up the most. I do my best to bite my tongue because I'm just like you. I see what's out on the internet and there's things I don't agree with. And there's people that I think, quite frankly, are doing a terrible job at teaching golf. I am never going to send anything to them. It's not my role in this planet to judge people. That's not why I'm here. But at the same time, if you are teaching something or expelling something and treating it as fact, and then attacking anybody who questions that, well, then I feel like it's fair game.
Okay.
And I feel like we need to get those people out of the industry because the thing is if you are a believer in a certain swing methodology and that's what you think is true, and that's the only thing you know, and that's the only trick you have to give that client, I don't think that person is telling the client, hey, there's a lot of stuff out there that might be good, but this is the only thing I know. So I hope this works for you. They're not saying that to the client. The client is going to them thinking that this person is a professional and knows what they need to know to help me, not that they only know one thing and they're going to try to force it and ram it down my throat. And that's where the golf industry really has a disconnect between the transactional coaches who are here to make money and the transformative coaches who are actually trying to help people and lead the industry better than they found it.
Okay. So that being said, now there's a recent riff on social media,
Slightly.
slightly. Now you described yourself as one of the few Trackman masters, right?
Hmm.
So there's also
He is,
Trackman.
I think he is, or I'm not sure.
It's also Trackman Maestro, right? So this
Right.
The Trackman Master and Trackman Maestro. Now, all things being equal, Joe Mayo's always been a gentleman with me. So I just, and let's put aside the insults, the back and forth, the threats, the bullshit. Put that aside. I want to know what the technical differences are within this argument. Okay,
Okay.
I'm not
Happy
interested
to
in
do so.
the personal attacks or any of that shit because that goes nowhere.
So just so you know, I don't really view it as an attack by Joe. And I would like to say this because I said this on the podcast. And by the way, a lot of people don't realize this because, they don't go more than one layer deep.
All right.
I posted a podcast with a video element that you can find on our YouTube page at Measured Golf
Okay.
by searching Measured Golf. And I show all the data
And
and I
we're
kind
gonna
of
link. And
walk
we're gonna
through.
link this interview to your measured golf and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
So I've shared all of this. And the first thing I said on that podcast, I do not have any problems with Joe Mayo. I don't have a personal problem with Joe. I think Joe is a wonderful guy from what I know. I don't know him that well, to be perfectly honest. But from
Okay.
what I've seen, I'm a big dog lover. I have 4 of them myself. And what he does with his donations to the animal, it's all great. I don't have too many problems with that. Where I kind of got a little upset with things is that there's other short game coaches who tend to take a lot of crap from that crowd, not necessarily Joe, but Joe's crowd. And there is a lot of people who I've recently been working with and for the first time, and they come in and they're really struggling with chipping. Like a lot of people that are golfers cannot chip and pitch the ball. You know that. I know that. We all know that as an industry. Chipping and pitching is this black box that most golfers simply cannot do very well. So the thing that I don't love with what Mr. Mayo is doing is the fact that, and I know this isn't true, by the way, Joe is a good coach. He wouldn't be the guy he is if he wasn't.
All right.
So I know that he is teaching more than this one shot. I know that. Like I know people who have worked with Joe in the past month and literally they're telling me like, hey man, like, yeah, he does that shot. But if I'm like, hey, what do I do if I got to elevate it? Well, then we do something else, right? Because you obviously, with Joe's methodology and staying left and increasing VSP and going double digits down, that's going to be a very difficult shot to, or a very difficult pattern to get the golf ball to elevate with. So I live in the Midwest in the state of Michigan. Almost all of the greens are elevated. There's a lot of Donald Ross golf courses. So you're going to have some kind of land angle and have to be able to get the ball up in the air to create some stopping power. So my issue, if you want to call it that, is that every time I see Mr. Mayo's social media, it's this is the way, this is the way, this is the way, this is the way. And it's like, okay, cool. I don't disagree that if you want to hit that particular style shot that's very low, with a lot of backspin and get it to kind of stop on a dime, he's not wrong. It's a way to do it. But then when he starts talking about how it's a mass driven thing and we're moving the center of mass up and down, that is my point of conflict. Because as I clearly show in the video and as I clearly show through the force plates, all things remaining equal, what actually transpires is that I was able to take a shot and move it from like 7 down to like 11 down and kind of more or less keep everything else equal. Okay. What the effects were was that I increased the spin rate on the ball by 150 RPMs on a total of 4,000. So the point I'm making is that the percentage of change for the spin rate is relatively low. I didn't really increase the spin by that much. Now, the interesting thing is that by increasing the angle of attack in the VSP, I lost 7 degrees of land angle on 30 degrees. So the percent of change there is huge. And like I said, if you are losing a third of your landing angle, that ball does lose stopping power, which is what the Trackman data shows that I also include in that podcast. So the interesting thing about all this is I think and I believe, and I'm happy to say that Joe has a way to hit that shot. And I promise you, when you're stacking left, which is basically what it is, and you're moving your center of pressure and your center of mass left, you are definitely going to be able to make contact better. But the thing is this, when you stack left, whether you lean the shaft or not, you've moved the whole thing towards the target. So there's all this lean in the situation and the contact gets better. But another way I could say that, since we kind of talked about Trackman a little bit, is I'm also increasing the smash factor. And here's the thing, with my driver, 150, let's do it, baby. That would be great. But anytime I'm chipping and pitching the golf ball, the goal is always the same. I'm trying to slow the ball down.
You're
I'm
trying to
not
control
trying,
you're trying to control the ball speed. So you want
right. But
if
I don't
there may
want
be
a
a
hot
situation where
shot.
you wanna take it low and let it run, just like
Yeah,
you'll get the
fine.
heavy shot where you got no green to work with, and you gotta figure
Right.
out to get out there as soft as possible, right?
Right. But
Sure.
generally speaking, if you go and you talk to almost any tour player, right? More often than not, they're not hitting that low hard one that runs to the back pin.
That's
We're
actually
trying
a
to kind
special that's actually like a specialty shot. Cool to watch. That one happen, that's cool, but it's probably a highly
I would say
risky
this.
shot, you know?
I think it's the Instagram cool shot. That's how I describe
Yeah,
that shot.
absolutely.
Like if you're next to the 18th, I'm sorry, if you're playing 18 and the clubhouse is right there and there's all those people out there and you want to make everybody go ooh and ah, then yeah, like hit that shot because like they will go ooh and ah.
Yeah,
But when you talk to people who are playing, and I know Joe does too, and I know Joe teaches this. I don't want to, I'm not saying Joe teaches one thing. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that Joe is presenting it as there's only one thing. And that is where the consumer is paying the ultimate price because people who can't chip all of a sudden are like, I'll do anything. Joe has a huge following. I mean, a lot of people know who he is. He's all over social media and people find him very quickly. And now that's the thing they try to do. But they're not Joe and they're not me and they're not you. And they don't understand that you're never elevating a golf ball from that. And more importantly, and this is where I really kind of struggle with the whole thing, is yes, you could move mass forward. You could. You're going to have a lot of lean, which, like we talked about, is going to take the dynamic loft, lower it way down. So the launch is going to be low. But here's the other thing most golfers are not going to be able to pull that off very well. And the reason that you have to match VSP up with it is if I stack on my lead side, I'm going to have a very difficult time getting my left lat to move across my body, which is what supports and holds the shoulder. So all of a sudden, the only thing I can really do is lift it. Now, the thing is, and this is not up for debate with me, the thing is that pressure is always moving the opposite of mass. Always. Pressure is where we're going, mass is where we've been. So when we think about stacking left, The thing that really makes this a difficult maneuver for people who aren't on the LPGA and PGA tours is the fact that as you drop the club towards the ball, hopefully using gravity, as we're doing that, your pressure starts moving backwards.
Mm.
And now all of a sudden, it's very easy to blade that shot. I'm not saying you're going to hit it fat. I 100% think with Joe's methodology and the way he teaches it with mass forward, you're not hitting it fat. A lot of people have accused me of saying that is not the problem. You won't hit it fat. But guess what? You can blade it, and you can blade it very easily. And I'll tell you what, I think for a lot of golfers, a chunk is probably going to work out better than a blade.